Hello everyone, this is Edray1416 here with another conservative commentary. Today's commentary is on an audio segment by Nathan Pritikin. Normally I would get into the segment, but I feel that I should give context to clear up some confusion. Mr. Pritikin was an inventor during World War II and a diet guru that pioneered a low-fat diet plan called the Pritikin diet. The purpose of the diet was to help people cut back on fat in an effort to lower heart disease. However, Mr. Pritikin came down with leukemia and committed suicide in 1985. Now you folks are going to say to yourself, "Edray, you fool! Nathan Pritikin is dead. Why are you commentating on a dead person?" Because I want to point out why the Pritikin diet led to the rise in neurological diseases and how it still affects people today. With that being said, today's avatar is Wilfred Brimley. Let's see what Mr. Pritikin has to say on the subject in question.
On our diet, we do permit you to have a certain amount of animal protein, fish and fowl, but we have to be careful about animal protein because of cholesterol. Cholesterol is a real problem. We're going to discuss that on heart disease. But I should tell you this, that if you eat more cholesterol than you lose through your body every day, the excess will pile up in your tissues, your organs, in your arteries, all over your body and destroy you. As it piles up in your arteries, you know what happens there. You grow sort of a cholesterol boil that we call a plaque. And as this boil grows inside your arteries, especially your coronary arteries that lead to your heart, the more the boil grows, the less room there is for blood to flow. And gradually it chokes up your blood supply and you can die of what we call heart disease.
First problem with this segment. You say that excess cholesterol will build up and clog your arteries, yet there have been numerous studies debunking the point. Even during the McGovern report in 1977, numerous scientists that conducted the studies regarding cholesterol found no evidence that cholesterol clogs your arteries. So where are you getting this information from, Mr. Pritikin? Without cholesterol, a man can't produce testosterone and a woman can't produce estrogen. Cholesterol is not only essential for hormone production, but it also keeps the mind alert. This is why your diet has caused more neurological deaths than any other low-fat diet. Depression, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, etc. Let's continue.
Now, heart disease is a bad name because you people might think that there's something wrong with your heart. Well, there's nothing wrong with your heart unless you've had a heart attack. The problem with heart disease is not the heart. It's the coronary arteries, the little vessels that are meant to feed the heart as blood, because the heart is only a muscle, like the calf muscle or your arm muscle, and what it requires is blood to do its work. And if you don't have enough blood flowing through your coronary arteries, the heart can't work, and it cries out in great pain. We call that angina. So that heart disease is the narrowing or closing of your arteries with these cholesterol boils that come from eating too much cholesterol.
Mr. Pritikin, this is not true, and here's why. Cholesterol is an essential nutrient that not only helps with natural hormone production, it also helps the leptin in the brain be alert. That way when you eat, your leptin can alert you as to when you are full. Nutrients that are often associated with cholesterol are selenium, chromium, copper, iron, vitamin D3, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Now here's the real reason why heart disease exists. People take in free radicals from trans fatty acids, heterocyclic amines, which is a big problem here in America, and processed carbohydrates. When you eat those three, LDL particles become extremely dense and can form a plaque. What cholesterol does is change the LDL particles to where they repair the damage in the arteries and not stick to the arteries whatsoever. Your diet is the reason why Alzheimer's disease became a recognized disease in 1979. Okay, let's continue.
To give you an idea now of which animal products create problems. Egg yolks are very, very rich in cholesterol. Therefore, we cannot use them in our diet. One egg yolk has as much cholesterol as a half a pound of steak. So if you eat a 3-egg omelet, you're eating 1.5 pounds of steak in cholesterol.
Is that so? Let me look at the nutritional facts to see if you're correct. According to FatSecret.com, the amount of cholesterol in half a pound of steak is 107 milligrams. The amount of cholesterol in an egg yolk is 184 milligrams. So you are wrong again, Mr. Pritikin. Red meat does not have as much cholesterol as an egg yolk. Like I said earlier, cholesterol is not the enemy. Free radicals from trans fatty acids, heterocyclic amines, and processed carbohydrates are the enemies of the arteries.
And as far as various organ meats and so on, chicken liver has 10 times more cholesterol per ounce than white meat of chicken. So you certainly don't want to eat the organ meats because they'll just overwhelm your body with cholesterol. Perhaps the highest amount of cholesterol content that's commonly eaten is in the brain. Animals' brains have 25 times more cholesterol than white meat of chicken or white meat of turkey. So you can't have that. The best thing to do is to stay away from all organ meats. Stay with the white meat of chicken, white meat of turkey.
That right there is the reason why hardly anybody eats organ meats. That advice has driven more people to their doctors just to get diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. People used to eat organ meats when they lived in primitive conditions in the old days. When people could not afford to buy pork or beef, they raised their own chickens and slaughtered them when the meat was prime. What did people do when they saved the chicken for later? They would remove the organs and cook them for lunch. You want to know why they did that? Because men needed cholesterol for sustainable energy. Chicken liver contains the second highest amount of cholesterol behind the egg yolk itself. Without this during primitive times, men would have not been able to work 16 hours a day to earn their keeps. Mr. Pritikin, cholesterol does not overwhelm your body. It gives your body sustainable energy just like protein does.
And you can have many fishes. The white meat of turkey and chicken are about 20% of the total calories and fat, about 80% protein. And if you add 2 to 3 ounces a day as an average for a week, that's about the maximum you can have. As far as fish is concerned, most fish is all right. Most fish is rather low in fat. Tuna, for example, is only 6% total calories and fat. That's if it's water-packed. But if you have oil-packed tuna, it's 10 times more in fat than water-packed tuna. And you can't wash the oil off of oil-packed tuna. So your best bet is just to get water-packed and give up the idea of oil-packed tuna. As far as the other normal fishes, codfish, many other fishes are fine. Now, one fish that we use, salmon, is about 50% of its total calories and fat. But it has such a strong flavor, we're able to use it anyway. Because even a 1/4 ounce of salmon can make up one salmon patty. It has such a strong flavor. It carries through the whole patty. And so we use it in our recipes. So fish is fine, fowl is fine, and you have to be careful of the fatty meats like feedlot beef.
While you do present some cases regarding fish, at the same time I have to disagree with you in regards to the consumption of fish as well as the consumption of white meat in fowl birds like chicken and turkey. Why do I take issue to this, Mr. Pritikin? Because fish contains mercury. Examples of high mercury are shark, swordfish, ahi tuna, and big-eye tuna. Even with the low mercury levels, fish like salmon, sardines, and scallops should be limited. That's the first issue. The second issue is that you are specifying white meat as a way to get your protein. The cholesterol in chicken breast contains 118 milligrams. Compare that to a serving of ground beef, which contains 60 milligrams of cholesterol. And you say ground beef is bad for us, but you are contradicting yourself with this statement. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, even white chicken has more cholesterol than ground beef. Good job, Mr. Pritikin.
Regular steaks, beef cuts, and so on, unfortunately, are artificially fattened. In the feedlot process, they force feed these animals, giving them special chemicals to make them grow more fat between their muscle tissues, and it's an unfortunate event then for those who eat it. Because the average beef animal, if permitted to range feed or grass feed, they only have 1/5 as much fat in their body as a feedlot animal. And you can't get the fat out of the meat in the feedlot animal. You may think you're cutting it out around the steaks and so on, but the fat is in the marbling. In between the muscle fibers, you see those streaks of fat. You can't take that out. That's there to stay. And if you broil it and you say, well, it disappeared during broiling, it didn't disappear. It melted. You can't see it. Let it cool in your plate and it'll all come back when it solidifies. Now you're eating a tremendous amount of fat. In a good club steak and so on, you're eating 80% of the total calories and fat. If you want to get a really good filet, you could be eating 85, 87% of the total calories and fat, only 12% protein. A slice of bread has more protein than a good filet. So that, don't look upon it as a protein dish. Look upon it as a fat dish, with as much fat as butter has. 82% total calories and fat. So as far as animal protein is concerned, most modern animal protein is just distorted to fill it with fat. It's like the old days when a goose was force-fed to give it a fatty liver. That was considered a delicacy.
I'm not the biggest fan of grain-fed beef, But the reason why they fatten cattle with grains is because of subsidies. These subsidies actually help keep the cost of beef low enough for people to buy and eat meat daily. Without these subsidies, beef would cost the average consumer an enormous amount of money. This is why people raised and ate chicken in primitive conditions a long time ago. There was no way they could afford pork or beef in the olden times. Grass-fed beef is good, but grain-fed beef gives people more access to protein where they can get enough protein for sustainable energy. I'm not an advocate for grain-fed beef. I'm just giving you common sense, Mr. Pritikin. And that's the end of the segment. Let me elaborate something. When Nathan Pritikin developed the Pritikin diet, it was a popular diet trend in the 1970s. So popular that Democratic Senator George McGovern of South Dakota created a report on the supposed danger of cholesterol. After numerous scientists couldn't verify that cholesterol was the culprit, McGovern issued dietary guidelines in which people ate less red meat and more white meat. Because of the nutritional deficiencies brought on by his own diet, Mr. Pritikin got afflicted with leukemia and committed suicide in 1985. But the dietary guidelines inspired by the Pritikin diet was the catalyst for Alzheimer's disease to be recognized in the medical books in 1979. What is the moral of this commentary? Avoid processed carbs, avoid fried food, eat cholesterol, and drink plenty of water. The worst thing animal fat can do to you is to make you tired like a baby. Even though this commentary is on a deceased individual, I will show respect and say, rest in peace, Mr. Pritikin. Anyway, I'm Edray, and I'm out of here.